Well, John, welcome to the Tattle Den.
Thanks, Des. It's great to be here. A lot of history when I look around. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, there's a bit of you in here as well, mate, that's for sure. Okay, I reckon the question that most people would want to ask is, how did this come about? How did Angling Protect come about?
Well, if you remember, Des, it was a conversation that you and I had 2 years ago now, where you suggested to me that we should look at a product or series of products for the angling sector. And I took that away, researched the sector, looked at what was already available, developed a product, got insurers to back that product, and then developed software behind it. And here we are 2 years later.
Yeah, and a long 2 years and a lot of work, to be honest.
It's been a labour of love.
It's astounded me the amount of work to set this thing up. But at the end of the day, here we are. Here we are. I think the next question has to be, and it's a question that's thrown all the time at me, and I know it is about you, that people would say, well, why do I need to insurance through Angling Protect? Surely me home insurance insures the lot.
Well, there's a quick answer and a more complicated answer to that one. The quick answer is that most home contents insurance cover provides for people's personal possessions away from their home, and that can be extended to include sports equipment. However, there are some buts, and the buts are, for example, equipment is excluded whilst in use, more often than not. There's often limits placed on equipment stored in people's sheds or outbuildings.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple examples of that during the research of people I spoke to. One poor chap lost £5,000 worth of fishing tackle stolen from his shed to find out that he'd only got a limit of £1,000 under his home contents insurance. Another chap had a garage that was separate to his home, so across the road, had all his kit stolen and wasn't covered. So, yes, but there are limitations.
Yeah, I have to say, when I've looked at it, I think to myself, it is worth insuring it separate. Yeah. And when they look at it, I was astounded, to be honest, at how cheap it was. Not cheap, but not expensive to do it. And certainly when you've got that much tattle, God, insure it.
Well,
that's for sure.
Another element of relying on your home contents insurance is often the limit is completely inadequate for the value of modern, particularly for carp anglers, the amount of equipment that they have. Home insurance limits for personal possessions often fall well short.
Yeah. Besides the individual angler, John, who else do you insure?
Well, a number of different elements. So we have a product for guides, like you, Des.
Yeah.
A guide, when they take somebody on the riverbank or a lake, assume a responsibility as a guide, and you have a duty of care to the person that you're with. If that person gets injured or worse still killed, and we know what some riverbanks are like in certain conditions, you have a responsibility for the safety of that person. Yeah. A lot of the covers that I saw just didn't address that. Mm-hmm. So that's the guides. Clubs, there's certain cover available to clubs, but again, when I looked at it, there were limitations to that cover, and it didn't address all of the risks that I felt an angling club had. Yeah. So that we have a specific product for clubs. Then we have syndicates and day ticket waters, where again they can range from a simple pool with fish stocks, where anglers either buy a day ticket or join a syndicate, but they range right through to the modern day ticket water that has lodges attached to it, has a cafe, has a bar, has a tackle shop, and again, we developed a product that was specific. Yeah. That tends to be a more bespoke offering from Angling Protect because of that variation. And from the conversations we've had, about a local day ticket water. They suffered a significant theft of equipment and had no insurance cover. So that's just a simple case in point.
Yeah, I really don't think people realise on a personal side, guides, that it could ruin your life.
Well,
I've just insured in with you, and for that cover, that it could ruin my life, because if I weren't insured, the only thing I've got to pay with is my house or whatever. It's serious stuff.
It is potentially a very serious exposure for guides. Yeah. The other thing I should have added earlier on is that for guides as well, we provide personal accident cover, which if you're injured and can't work, it will cover you for not entirely this, but it will cover for you, at least in part, your loss of earnings if you can't work.
Yeah. I can't say enough for it. I mean, any guide or angling clubs, I know for a start there is a commitment for committee members. When you've got a club and you're committed, you're on the committee, people think, well, it ain't my club. It is.
It is. Well, as a committee member, you have a duty to the members of that club. The club funds, and sadly in life, funds get misappropriated. So we provide what's called crime insurance to protect the club against misappropriation of their funds. The law is complex around volunteers and how volunteers are treated and insured. So we've thought this through very carefully in terms of the club package, in terms of addressing all of those exposures.
Okay. The last question I'd like to ask today is some of the unique features that you've got for syndicates, clubs, etc., because and fisheries, because they really are unique.
Yeah, well, I suppose the key one is all around their fish stocks, because if you think about a club or a syndicate or a day ticket fishery, their products are their fish, and if they don't have those fish, they don't have a business. So we built into the cover protection for loss of their fish stocks. Now, that's in two different elements. One is covering the cost of replacing the fish stocks if they're lost, predation, pollution, so on and so forth, or just basic theft. But also the business interruption that's consequent on the loss of that fish stock. So if you think about a day ticket fishery, they lose the fish stocks, they've got to be replaced, so there's a cost associated with that. But also it's their loss of income or revenue during the period until they replace the fish stock. So I would say of all the features within everything that we've developed, that is the most unique and the one probably that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I must admit. But we need to get that straight. It ain't somebody's lost a 30-pounder on the morning. No, you can't claim that. It's if you talk about a major...
Yeah, it's about catastrophic loss, really, Des. I mean, losing a single fish, we're not here to swap with the fishery on something like that. We have an excess for each and every claim of £10,000, so that eliminates small losses. This cover is all about serious catastrophic loss to the fishery.
Many thousands of pounds.
Which really, my sense from what I've seen from talking to people is it's something that isn't thought about enough, and it's an absolute fundamental for any syndicate, club. When I talk about clubs, this is about still water. It's not about rivers, because they don't own the fish, of course.
No.
So it's about their still waters, it's about syndicates, and it's about day ticket fisheries. And to me, it's a fundamental protection that they should all be buying.
And the first.
Absolutely.
Finally, John, we've got the product. How does the angler get it from you?
Well, two ways, Des. They can either contact us on www.anglingprotect.co.uk, call us on the phone number, or they can ring me directly if there's something they want to talk about.
Brilliant.